Alice signs a transaction paying Bob 1 Bitcoin with a lock time 3 months in the future. She hands it over. Bob thinks he's been paid. He hasn't. Alice can quietly build a second transaction, spending those same coins back to herself today, and Bob is left holding worthless bytes. How does Bitcoin actually fix this? Start with the basics. Every Bitcoin transaction has a field called nLockTime. It tells the network, don't include me in the block until this height or this timestamp is reached. Miners enforce it. So if Alice sets nLockTime to 3 months from now, the transaction simply cannot be mined before then. That sounds like a time lock. It looks like a guarantee, but the lock lives on the transaction, not on the coins themselves, and that distinction is everything. Here's the whole. The UTXO, the unspent output Alice is sending, is itself unrestricted. Only the paper transaction carries the deadline. So Alice builds TX1 paying Bob with a 3-month lock, hands it over, then immediately builds TX2 spending the same input back to her own address, with no lock at all. TX2 broadcasts today, miners confirm it, and TX1 is now permanently invalid because its inputs are gone. Bob's transaction never enters the chain. Lock time prevented broadcast, not betrayal. The fix has to bind the coins, not the wrapper. So how do we actually fix this? Move the time lock from the transaction into the script that locks the UTXO. Now the network itself rejects any spend that doesn't honor the deadline. Alice can't write around it because consensus enforces it. December 2015 brought the soft fork that did exactly this. OP check lock time verify, or CLTV. It's an absolute time lock baked into the output's locking script. The argument is either a block height or a Unix timestamp. The verify suffix means execution halts on failure. The deadline is no longer a request, it's a rule. Here's Alice's redeem script paying Bob with a real time lock. Bob's public key, then OP check sig verify. Bob must sign. Then the lock value, then OP check lock time verify, then OP drop. For 3 months, we won roughly 12,960 blocks at 10 minutes each. If the current height is 820,000, the CLTV value is 832,960. Now the spending side. Bob's transaction must set its own nLock time greater than or equal to that value, and the input's sequence number must not be at maximum. CLTV consults those fields. The script and the transaction shake hands. CLTV looks simple, but there are sharp edges. It fails if the stack is empty, if the value is negative, if the stack value exceeds the transaction's nLock time, if the input sequence is at maximum, or if formats mismatch, meaning a block high lock time checked against a timestamp transaction, or vice versa. There's also a cross-input rule. A single transaction can't mix block height and the timestamp CLTVs across different inputs. They must agree. The transaction has only one nLock time field, and that field is interpreted one way or the other, never both. One more oddity, the OP drop at the end. CLTV doesn't consume its argument, the lock time value just sits on the stack after execution. That's because CLTV was grafted onto a previously unused opcode called a NOP, a no operation slot. NOPs left the stack untouched, and for soft fork compatibility, CLTV had to behave the same way. OP drop isn't part of the time lock logic, it's just stack hygiene. Sometimes you don't care about a calendar date. You care about time elapsed since this specific UTXO was mined. Useful when you don't know in advance when the parent will confirm. May 2016 added OP check sequence verify or CSV. CSV reads the input sequence field, the same field we kept below maximum a moment ago. The spend is allowed only when the sequence value indicates that enough blocks or enough time have passed since the parent output was confirmed. The clock starts at confirmation. The deadline rides with the coin. The Lightning Network leans on this. Imagine a parent transaction that opens or updates a payment channel. and a child transaction pre-signed but held off-chain, encumbered by CSV equal to 144 blocks, about a day. The child cannot confirm immediately even after the parent hits the chain. The CSV countdown begins only when the parent is mined. That window is the safety period, time for a counterparty to publish a penalty if cheating occurred. Unlike CLTV, CSV has no cross-input format restriction. Different CSV varieties combine freely. Once you have both absolute and relative time locks, an entire design space opens up. CLTV gives you deadlines, escrow that auto-refunds, inheritance scripts, vesting schedules, hash time-locked contracts that expire at a fixed height. CSV gives you aging, channel safety windows, chained off-chain transactions, vault withdrawal delays where a thief's spend can be revoked before it matures. Lightning, discrete log contracts, modern vault designs, every serious layer 2 protocol stands on these two opcodes. Step back to the deeper lesson. Transaction lock time was a polite request. Don't mind me yet. CLTV and CSV are consensus rules. This coin cannot move yet. By binding logic to the UTXO instead of the transaction wrapping it, Bitcoin made promises about the future enforceable by the network itself rather than by trust. The script and the transaction fields negotiate together. CLTV checks nLockTime, CSV checks sequence, but the script holds the leash. That's why the original Alice and the Bob story has a real ending now. Alice can write a CLTV output paying Bob in 3 months, and no second transaction she crafts will spend those coins 1 block earlier. The deadline isn't on paper, it's in the consensus rules, and the network keeps it.